Hello everyone, welcome to the CTV News on Calabash TV and on the Wave Radio 94.5. I am Melissa Joseph and we have a special newscast for you, somewhat abbreviated, given a statement by the Prime Minister. Dr. Kenny Anthony has delivered an overview of the national economy, indicating that a turnaround is on the horizon. Key sectors such as tourism, construction and manufacturing, Dr. Anthony has said, has shown real signs of improvement, which will haul St. Lucia out of the pit of economic contraction, which it has been in for the past 3 consecutive years. The rate of inflation, the Prime Minister said, is also on the decline. Here's the Prime Minister's statement on the economy.
From time to time, questions are posed by you about the state of our economy. I'm pleased to share with you and the public an update on the performance of the economy since the 2015-16 budget statement. I'm pleased to report that St. Lucia's economy is on the way to recovery after 3 consecutive years of contraction. You may recall that in the past 3 years, the rate of negative growth had decelerated steadily. Preliminary data for the period January to June 2015 suggests increases in output for most sectors of the economy, led principally by the tourism industry. The rebound in economic performance has been helped by the slow but steady recovery in the economies of the more developed countries to which St. Lucia's economy is inextricably linked, as they represent the main source markets for our tourist arrivals. During the first half of 2015, total stayover arrivals increased by 5.3% to 185,424, representing a record level of arrivals over the last 5 years for the first 6 months of the year. This performance was mainly attributed to a 12.3% growth in arrivals from the United States, our largest source market and highest spending market per person. The performance of the United States market was largely influenced by a steady improvement in the U.S. economy, supported by additional airlifts in the latter part of 2014, mainly from the northeast region of the United States. Other markets, such as the Caribbean, also showed improvements in arrivals. Cruise ship passenger arrivals were also on the upswing, with growth of 9.8% to 399,746 passengers visiting our shores during the first half of 2015. This strong performance was mainly attributed to an increase in scheduled arrivals by cruise lines and the return of some other cruise lines. However, preliminary indications suggest that the 2015-16 winter season is likely to see a slowdown in cruise ship arrivals as fewer cruise ship lines are scheduled to visit St. Lucia. St. Lucia's economic performance in 2015 is likely to be strengthened by the turnaround that is currently being witnessed in the construction industry. Based on preliminary data for the first 6 months of 2015, the value of imported construction materials increased by 4.8% compared with the corresponding period of 2014. Further expenditure on major construction projects increased for the first half of 2015 compared with the previous year. Public sector expenditure on construction is expected to increase as several new projects get underway. For example, the Soufriere Square, the Vieux-Fort Administrative Complex, the Groseilliers Human Resource Development Center, and the Aquatic Center. In addition, plans are in the final stages for work to start on the expansion of the Chartres-Groseilliers Highway. In the private sector, work continues on a number of projects, such as Tides, Sugar Beach in Soufriere, Harbor Club Hotel, Unicoma Building, and Diana Commercial Center. The reconstruction of the Smugglers Hotel later this year, at an estimated cost over US $100 million, is expected to have a major impact on the revival of the construction sector. The recovery in construction could, of course, be boosted even further if our commercial banks adopt more aggressive lending policies in home construction. Notwithstanding the challenge of the manufacturing sector, indications are that production increased during the January to June 2015 period by 1.8%, while the largest and most significant category, food and food products, recorded a 5.9% decline in the value of production. Increases were recorded in output of corrugated paper and paperboard by 13.4%, wood and wood products by 29%, and furnishings by 20.5%. The agriculture sector recorded mixed performances during the first half of 2015. While banana and livestock production recorded declines, purchases of fresh fruits and vegetables by the supermarkets and hotels increased. Banana exports to the UK fell by 3.7% to 4,937 tons, valued at $9.1 million. The Ministry of Agriculture has reported enormous success in controlling the black sigatoka disease, which should augur well for the future of the banana industry. Supermarket and hotel purchases of other crops grew by an estimated 6% to 2,480 tons, reflecting the success of the CFL Farmer Certification Program coupled with the growth in stay-over visitors. Following an increase of 3.5% in 2014, the rate of inflation is on the decline in 2015. During the period January to June 2015, growth in the Consumer Price Index averaged 0.3%, reflecting the dampening impact of lower fuel costs on consumer prices. The improvement in economic performance was not only confined to the real sectors of the economy. The fiscal performance of the government of St. Lucia also improved, evidenced by an overall surplus during the first quarter, April to June of the 2015-16 fiscal year, albeit due to the commencement of the implementation of the capital program. Total revenue and grants increased by 11.9% to $253.84 million, while total expenditure grew by 1.7% to $235.22 million. This resulted in a surplus of $18.6 million. This compares favorably to the overall deficit of $4.52 million recorded in the first quarter of fiscal year 2014-15. The current account improved as the surplus for the first quarter increased by 50.5% to $45.7 million on account of larger increase in current revenue relative to current expenditure. Current revenue grew by 9.4% to $243.87 million, while current expenditure was up by 2.9% to $198.17 million, mainly driven by higher interest payments on the island's debt. The largest contributor to the increase in current revenue was taxes on income, mainly reflecting collections of tax arrears. Notwithstanding the improved fiscal position during the first quarter, significant risk remains as evidenced by our high public debt stock. The stock of public debt as of June 2015 stood at $2,791.16 million, representing an increase of only 0.1% relative to December 2014. The low rate of increase was influenced by a $63.5 million loan, which was paid off during the period under review. Interest payment on the debt is expected to be the largest contributor to growth in current expenditure in 2015-16, reflecting past debt accumulation and the maturity profile of the debt stock. This trend of rising debt service costs is expected to continue as an increasingly larger amount of the debt comes to maturity, or if you prefer, is retired. Despite the first quarter improvements in fiscal performance, I expect that there will be a widening of the fiscal deficit in the current period as expenditure pressures accelerate. You will recall that I had indicated that this would happen in the 2015-16 budget statement. It is therefore important that measures to contain expenditure remain firmly in place. On the basis of the performance of the economy during the first half of 2015 and expectations for the rest of the year, real GDP growth is estimated to expand somewhere within the range of 0.8 to 2.4% in 2015. However, this projection is subject to considerable downside risks given the precarious nature of the incipient recovery coupled with the headwinds emanating from the slow pace of global economic recovery. The economic slowdown in China and Brazil are particularly worrisome. On the domestic front, downside risk associated with slower than anticipated pace of private sector construction activity and government capital spending on account of acute financing pressures implies that the outlook, although positive, remains fragile. While I do not have updated figures on the rate of unemployment, I expect that unemployment will be contained and will gradually reduce as investment intensifies and the economy expands. I believe that there is good reason, barring any major disasters or calamities to befall us, for our people to look forward to the future with greater hope and confidence. The government has had to take some hard, difficult, and unpopular decisions to correct the structural problems of our economy. Some of the decisions were greeted with dismay, but they are beginning to bear fruit for all to see. I remain thankful to all St. Lucians for their understanding and patience. We have come through a difficult period. We are not home and dry. Far from it. There is still more to be done. Collectively, we can do it.